U.S. intelligence agency, mind control.
Are they traitorous grifters? Are they victims? Are they just...
Oh, God. I wasn't sure if you'd put this in here. But I said, hey, you know what? He made a video on it.
Do we want to hear his take on the Russian thing?
I mean,
Is that what you wanted?
We'll try.
Okay.
Useful idiots? These are the questions people are now asking after an indictment was unsealed that alleges that some of the biggest right-wing influencers on this platform received millions of dollars to pump out videos to spread Russian propaganda ahead of the 2024 election. We're going to be talking about that and so much more on today's brand new Philip DeFranco Show, you daily dive into the news. So let's just jump in.
You know what it is? He's less fat than he was when I watched him. He's a lot skinnier.
Yeah. He lost a lot of weight.
This is a news show.
What is
influencers in the world who just so happen to say things like,
this is psychotic. Yeah. Ukraine is the enemy of this country. Ukraine is our enemy, being funded by the...
another really funny Tim Pool one. This just reminded me. I have to show this as well.
Democrats, I will stress again, one of the greatest enemies of our nation right now is Ukraine.
Right, so that is Tim Pool. He's one of 6 big personalities of a based company by the name of Tenet Media. The biggest ones there, besides him, being the likes of Benny Johnson and Dave Rubin. With this, I want to say, one, they, along with Tenet Media itself, are alleged to be just one key part of a massive Russian influence campaign targeting unwitting Americans all over the country. And two, to be clear, neither Tenet Media or...
Yeah, that was actually one good part, good thing that I think might have been Sam Cedar mentioned. Is that this is a part of a much bigger operation. There was much more. This is just a little bit.
Did we watch this specific video right here that I'm sending?
I don't know.
Because this one's older than his newer one. I think. Can't fucking see the skip right here.
Yes, we did watch this one, yes.
Okay, so... So the whole thing is just like, he's just railing on Tim Pool because Laura Loomer said he was going to execute people, and Tim Pool was like, I'm suing Kamala Harris, right? So he's just making fun of Tim Pool over that. But Tim Pool's video here is so funny, how dramatic and performative he is. So you can see it's got the spikes here, you know? I'm not sure if I think it's this, but it might be earlier.
Laura Loomer said, not just go to jail, but for the death penalty.
I am opposed to the death penalty in all circumstances. I have argued against the death penalty.
He's mad.
I do not trust the government to decide who gets to live and die, and I will never support the death penalty or any type of executions. For that matter, the clip in question posted by the Kamala campaign was literally me arguing against the idea of the death penalty, telling Laura Loomer that these individuals did not commit treason, more likely sedition, but there is a lot on exactly what this post is. And so I just wanted to make sure I started immediately by addressing what we are doing. So I will stress one more time. I have engaged legal counsel. There's only so much you can do over Labor Day weekend. Had it been during the week, we would have probably filed in the immediate, but hopefully by today, I can give you an update. My intention is to immediately file a lawsuit and approach every legally correct avenue to do that. And so I will stress one more time. So far, I've contacted my legal counsel. We have discussed the issue at length.
We're suing to
file a lawsuit. The reason why I say intend is I'm not exactly sure. I'm not a lawyer myself. All I can do is inform you that we have begun this process, and I fully intended to see it taken to this degree. And so I'm going to break down the structure of what happened with the Harris campaign in greater detail. But I will say this before we get started, as I often do. Head over to castbrew.com.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love that they all have the coffee thing as well. That's so
I know,
fun.
right?
or anyone at the company is actually being accused of wrongdoing. And I'm not saying Tim Pool was ordered to say those things about Ukraine. Part of this alleged Russian scheme could just be Russian operatives seeing creators saying things that they love, like pro-Russian talking points, and going, let's make sure these guys don't have to worry about cash. Which, funny enough, is a tactic that Tim Pool himself talked about in the past, though through a slightly different veil.
So what happens with social media, particularly YouTube, where it's really easy, you can have a foreign agent or even the government or some corporation or whatever say, this guy talks about things that we really like. Dump ad money into his channel through Google AdSense, and they'll never know we were the ones funding him, and you can't prove it.
Because all of this actually has to do with the DOJ charging 2 employees of the Russian state-controlled media network RT with conspiracy to violate the Foreign Agents Registration Act. And they're accused of secretly paying $10 million to a company in Tennessee that's now widely understood to be TENET Media to spread nearly 2,000 English-language videos on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and X. With one unidentified influencer, for example, reportedly getting paid $400,000 a month, with that coming after a $100,000 signing bonus. So, with all this, you had AG Merrick Garland saying, the subject matter and content of many of the videos were often consistent with Russia's interest in amplifying U.S. domestic divisions in order to weaken U.S. opposition to core Russian interests, particularly its ongoing war in Ukraine. Right? And one of the examples provided is that the Tennessee company was reportedly told to blame Ukraine for an attack on a concert venue in Moscow back in March, even though ISIS had already claimed responsibility. But then the company's founder allegedly replied saying one of the contributors would be happy to cover it. And there, like I said, TENET Media isn't actually named in the indictment or being accused of anything right now. But the company's co-founders, right-wing influencer Lauren Chen and her husband, Liam Donovan, allegedly knew the money came from Russia. And actually, with that, we're now seeing that Chen's contract with the conservative media company Blaze has been terminated of Reddit and image boards such as 4chan, and the documents describing this cohort as the, quote, outcome in the election. Because there, while the party and the candidate names are redacted in the versions we have, it's pretty clear from the context clues that this means Trump and the Republicans, which absolutely makes sense because it lines up with what we've heard from
this we haven't looked at. This is the audience of the campaign.
First Deputy Chief of Staff. With media for the DOJ, it's run by Sergei Kiriyenko, a former prime minister who's now Putin's first Deputy Chief of Staff. And with that, the department actually published a document produced for a Russian company by the name of the Social Design Agency, detailing something called the Good Old USA Project. And there, the top objective was to, quote, increase the percentage of Americans who believe that the U.S. has been doing way too much to support Ukraine. And with that, they were apparently targeting certain groups in particular, including residents of swing states and conservative states, U.S. citizens of Hispanic descent, and American Jews. But then also, lastly, the, quote, community of American gamers, users of Reddit and image boards such as 4chan, and the documents describing this cohort as the, quote, backbone of right-wing trends in the U.S.
Community of American gamers is such a funny term.
Now, Russia dropping this much money
on an influence campaign
should reaffirm why we need to send more weapons and put less restrictions on Ukraine. Because if it wasn't working and Russia was just holding out and they were going to be fine and they're going to win the war anyway, and
why would they be doing
to waste the human lives? Why?
Yeah, why? Why would they be doing this if it wasn't working or they weren't struggling? There's no reason to. Why would they care?
It might be like a pretty fucking sloppy op that was put together, but they still got it to the point where they had people that were creators. How long was TENET Media even operational online?
A year.
A whole year? I mean, that's not a bad op. But like, it's not like the CIA. I mean, the CIA has done way cleaner ops, of course, but it's not like the CIA doesn't do messy shit like this.
Yeah.
Fucking, they got a fucking Sudanese drug plant bombed by saying sarin was in it.
And then besides that, I should also say the document, along with the others obtained and released by the DOJ, explicitly talks about securing Russia's preferred outcome in the election. Because there, while the party and the candidate names are redacted in the versions we have, it's pretty clear from the context clues that this means Trump and the Republicans, which absolutely makes sense because it lines up with what we've heard from intelligence officials in the past and just based on comments Trump has made in the past.
If we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want.
So also there, I'll mention that there's a video going around today where Putin claims that he wants Harris to win. But really, we've seen most serious people having the impression that that was just a joke, because really everything points to his real preference being Trump. And in any case, this comes as the Biden-Harris administration has announced a bunch of new measures to fight back against Russian efforts to influence this year's election. With the State Department, for example, designating 5 Russian state-funded news outlets, including RT, as foreign government missions. So with that, making it harder for employees of those outlets to get visas to the U.S. And then you have the DOJ seizing 32 internet domains that were reportedly used to spread Russian propaganda. There, notably the websites being designed to look like authentic news sites, but they were actually fake. Also, the Treasury Department announced new sanctions, including against RT's editor-in-chief.
See, like, this is shit that the government should be doing, right? This is the government doing its job if it has to exist. Like, they are protecting their people from foreign influence and foreign fucking like foreign I mean, influence is the best word. I'm losing the next one, but it's like,
I love how they're like
agendas.
They're like, oh, free speech, but that won't stop us from sanctioning you. It's just We're not going to do criminals action against your free speech
Yeah.
with these sanctions, RT.
and other employees of the department, saying there that the editor-in-chief is a, quote, central figure in Russian government
To
malign
Tech
influence
Mouse,
efforts.
that's
Of course,
like
all
you
of this
need a
is on top
monthly
of other actions that
subscription.
we've seen recently. Like in March, for example, the Treasury imposed sanctions on the Social Design Agency and another Russian company accused of creating fake news sites to spread misinformation. Also, law enforcement has reportedly even been investigating Americans who have worked with Russia's state television networks in the past. With that actually leading to another indictment today.
Uh-oh. That's a lot of people. There's a lot of XRT people.
Of a guy who was an advisor to Trump's first campaign and who's now accused of money laundering and
One
violating
of our favorites.
sanctions. But of course, with all this, especially when you're talking about investigating Americans, there's a question about where the line is. Right? Some Americans, especially amongst Trump supporters, they see accusations that Russia is spreading disinformation as efforts to undermine their views. So at that point, you just have to take a quick look online, especially on X.
Just because somebody lives in a delusion doesn't mean that we shouldn't help them. Thanks.
Russiagate trending, and you had people, not even necessarily just Trump supporters, saying things like, just as in 2016 and 2020, Biden admin to activate Russiagate propaganda to manipulate U.S. opinion ahead of the 2024
Uh-oh! Careful.
One
You're
second.
You're on Twitter Raw right now. Careful.
It's fine. I'm trying to go to the 5th gen. There we go. Here we are.
Now you're gonna get dicks.
Okay, it's the 5th gen one. It's fine. Hi. What's his fucking what's his thing?
No, look, he's fine. He was sourcing it as an example of idiots.
He fucking better be.
No, go back, look.
All right.
Take a quick look online, especially on X. You had Russiagate trending, and you had people, not even necessarily just Trump supporters, saying things like, just as in 2016 and 2020.
There's no negative connotation in that.
Biden admin to activate Russiagate propaganda to manipulate U.S. opinion ahead of the 2024 election. But I will say, this is kind of more of a general statement. No matter where you are on the political spectrum, it never hurts to be a little bit skeptical. But I also think it's important not to have such an open mind that your brain slips out. And often what I see is, for some reason, when the topic of Russian interference pops up, some people automatically try to make it sound like you're saying, oh, the election machines, those were tampered with by Russia. And what you're actually talking about are the bot and troll farms and the attempts to spread misinformation online, which has been seen. Also, a big thing with the situation is you have people like Paul M. Barrett.
Okay, that's acceptable. I still don't think you should be putting fucking Aaron Mate on screen as the primary example. Use some fucking nobody.
Deputy director of the Stern Center for Business
Not an
Assad, arguing the government has to walk a fine line to distinguish between foreign election interference and free speech. And actually, with that, you had him telling the New York. The dividing line is when you identify activity, particularly concealed activity, that is circumventing established regulations for how we try to prevent foreign interference in our election. And if that line is crossed, he says it's not a reason to just run up the free speech flag and throw up your hands and we're helpless in the face of Vladimir Putin's very clever operatives. And there, I should also say that Biden officials have made a point to say they are not aiming to curb free speech. They've actually been saying that Americans won't be investigated just for repeating or spreading stories they see on Russian state media. And so far, we've seen no indication that that's untrue. Yeah, for now, that is where the situation is going to end, though obviously we're going to keep our eyes on it. And in the meantime, I got to ask, what are your thoughts on any and all of this? Whether it be around TENET, media, and the influencers.
Don't use Aaron Mate. That's my thought. Don't care.
Or sorry in advance. Then, switching to sad and serious news, we need to talk about updates to the tragic school shooting that happened in Georgia yesterday. First up, we saw the authorities releasing the identities of the 4 people murdered at Appalachia High School. The 2 children being Mason Schermerhorn and Christian Angelo, both of whom were 14 years old. The 2 educators who were killed were 39-year-old Richard Aspinwall and 53-year-old Christina Irami. As far as the 9 people who were hospitalized with injuries, authorities said that 8 of them were students, 1 is a teacher.
What did I say?
All are expected to survive. We also got more information about the shooter, who's identified as a 14-year-old student at the high school, as we mentioned yesterday. Well, the authorities have still not publicly stated the motive. We did learn that law enforcement officials investigated him last year in connection to online threats of a school shooting. And more specifically, the FBI said that it had received several anonymous tips in May of 2023 about posts on a gaming site.
Say the thing.
What?
It happened again. I literally have a meme about this. 1 second.
contained photos of
What
guns and
happened
warnings of
again?
the school shooting at an unidentified location and time. With the FBI telling reporters that it tracked the post to Jackson County, where sheriff's deputies then continued the investigation, which led them to the suspected shooter, who was 13 at the time. So with that, Jackson County officials brought in the teen and his father for an interview, but the teen denied making the threats. While his father told the authorities that they did have hunting guns in the house, he said that his son didn't have unsupervised access to the weapon. So as a result, no charges were filed, with the FBI saying that the investigators lacked probable cause to make an arrest or take any additional law enforcement action on the local, state, or federal level. Also, in a separate statement, Jackson County Sheriff Janice Mangum
Yeah,
said a
I
thorough
don't care about
investigation was
that. Did you
conducted,
hear
but
what
the
I
game and
said?
site threats could not be substantiated. And
just-
adding, my phone is
I don't
blowing up
care
with
what
messages
the
from people about
FBI
social media postings about
fucking-
other possible incidents. To my knowledge, there is not a list
No, that's
indicating
the
any
thing.
of this. And with that
The
said, the
FBI
FBI did say that Jackson County
investigates
authorities
and
alerted
they
local
determined
schools
he
for
wasn't
continued
breaking the
monitoring of
law.
the subject. But according to the New York
Like,
Times, it's unclear if
it's not
Appalachia
the
High School
FBI's
officials were among
job
those
to,
notified
like,
by Jackson
fucking
County officials
prevent
because the
school
school is technically
shootings
in a
and
neighboring
shit,
county. And also,
you
super
know,
notably here,
unless
just this
they're-
morning, we got
Very
some
cool.
more details
You
from
know,
the
Very
investigation
cool.
by the county sheriff's office that came by
if they
several
have
outlets. So those
elaborate
records showing that
plans
Jackson
to do
County
a
officials were
fucking
specifically
terrorist
investigating
attack or
posts in the
school
Discord
shooting,
chat
then
group
it's
where a
the
user had threatened
FBI's
to shoot
job
up
to
a
do
middle school. The
something.
investigators were ultimately led to the suspected shooter because the Discord account that made those threats was associated with an email belonging to him. That report noting that the username for the account was written in Russian and translated to the last name of the Sandy Hook shooter. Then also with that, the 13-year-old and his father
Right.
told the authorities that they didn't speak Russian. And while the shooter did say that he used to have a Discord account, he claimed that he had deleted it because he had been hacked repeatedly and was afraid someone would use his information for nefarious purposes. With him also telling the investigator that, quote, he would never say such a thing, even in a joking manner. Also significant here is the information we got from the teen's father about his access to guns, with him having told investigators that his son, quote, is allowed to use them when supervised, but does not have unfettered access to them. But it's also unclear how those weapons were being stored or how the teen was prevented from accessing them, with the investigator writing that they had, quote, urged the father to keep his firearms locked away. And then beyond all that, the Times also just reported this morning that while police were searching the shooter's room, they found evidence that he, quote, had an interest in mass shootings per two law enforcement officials. While they didn't provide specifics about the nature of that evidence, they did say that he appeared to be particularly obsessed with the Parkland shooting. And then the final update I want to hit on is that while I was filming, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation officially announced that the shooter has been charged with 4 counts of
Anyway,
felony
did you
murder.
hear what
So
I
as of
said?
recording, that's pretty much
Or were
everything
you
we know. But of
ignoring
course,
me
this is still a
to pull
developing
up a meme?
situation. So for now, we're gonna have to wait to see if more information comes. But I mean, as far as what happens next, the shooter's expected to make his
Okay.
first appearance in court tomorrow.
Well,
And
that
then
answers
AI
that
made this guy
question.
millions of dollars, but now he's facing prison.
Look at him, still ignoring me. Still hasn't heard what I said.
Why is there so much? There's a huge section here about astrology.
It's like I'm
which
invisible.
We're not gonna watch.
Well, they're telling a lot of tales.
Oh God! Did you hear what I said? Hello.
About Mexico too, and it's
I
causing
don't
some.
Are you aware of a CIA psychological profile about you, sir? Would you be interested in hearing what the CIA had to say? This secret study portrays as a brilliant but dangerous megalomaniac who is likely to pursue his own aims in disregard of U.S. interests. He's an uncertain ally. Shall I go on, or would you prefer that I stop, sir?